Hi, Niki.
Hello.
I looked you up on Wikipedia, and I'm just going to do an intro. I know you guys know Niki, but I'm just going to do a wee intro. If there's anything wrong, just tell me.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so previously on Niki Caro was born in Wellington, got a BFA at Elam School of Fine Arts, a postgraduate diploma in film from Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne. She started in sculpture, taught herself to write from books, worked in commercials, then television, and then steadily began her career in film with her debut festival feature, Memory and Desire, then her big success with Whale Rider, then breaking into Hollywood with North Country, which garnered Oscar and Golden Globe nominations. More recently, Niki helmed the Disney film McFarland USA, released last year, 45 million at the box office, certified 80% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really good.
Yeah, thank you.
It's quite a feat. And is currently working on The Zookeeper's Wife with actor Jessica Chastain, who recently guest wrote in The Hollywood Reporter that she had never been on set with so many women and that the whole experience made her, quote, giddy with happiness. So, hi, Niki.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, so we are going to chat for about 40 minutes and then we're going to open it up to your questions, your burning questions. But I just want, before we start, can I just get a show of hands on who are producers in the audience? Hello, producers and directors. Great. All right. And then writers. Cool. And everything in between. Okay, we've got a few in-betweeners. Fantastic, great. How many of you could call yourself in the short film stage of your career? Great. How many of you have made your first feature film and are looking to move on to your second feature film? Great. Got a few of those. And how many are well on their way, have made 2 feature films or more? Great. Hi. Cool. So, Niki, you have done something that is quite rare. You are part of the 4%. Mm-hmm. Only 4% of Hollywood films are directed by women. I think maybe we'd all like to know how you think you got there, what tools or work ethic you think has contributed to your succeeding against the odds.
It's so depressing to me. I can't tell you. So I guess during the time when I came through at Elam and we started to make kind of short films and everything, it was a very politically correct time. And I never ever felt, and this is kind of due to the way I was brought up as well, that my gender was ever an impediment to being a filmmaker. In fact, I was quite convinced it was an advantage. And when I made Whale Rider, which is really a story about this. Hello. Hi. I thought the kind of girl power aspect of Whale Rider was a bit sort of obvious and a bit old-fashioned and not the most interesting thing about it, because for me that movie was really about what it takes to be a leader. And it was my story in many ways, even though it's about pie and it's about the Māori culture. It really was, it ran a parallel story for me about what it took to lead a feature film and what a leader was. And Māori culture taught me everything about what a leader is. Because Tim Worrell, who's up the back, who's my very good friend and incredibly generous advisor on that movie, helped me to be inside the culture enough to recognise that a good leader is not the guy up the front shouting, it's the guy out the back doing what needs to be done. And so with Whale Rider, I was very, very conscious of I was serving the story. The story wasn't serving me or any ambitions I had to be a filmmaker, that I had this terribly precious thing that I had to get from the page to the screen, or from the people to the audience, and it worked out really well, and I got a lot of attention, and I ended up making a big movie in Hollywood. And but I was still you know, charging about in a pretty sort of gender-free way. I didn't see that there was any problem with me being the director of this movie, but it started to dawn on me when I was making that movie, you know, when I considered the contempt with which some of the crew were treating me and my first AD, so the people who sit in on the masterclass, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but it bears talking about that what you don't sort of think about is your own performance. Like when you go into a big feature film environment and you're in pretty much an unknown quantity. I got a big break. I get to direct this film, and it's a film that ended up having a lot of, you know, big movie stars in it, and shot by, you know, a really kind of good DP, and so everything about it is a known quantity. People are pretty sure Charlize is going to be good. They know Fran's going to be good. You know, everybody's going to be good, and it took me a while to think, oh shit, nobody knows if I'm going to be good or not. Honestly, including me, and particularly not the crew that just presumed I would be bad because I was a girl, and the snow was deep, and I'm short, and you know, and Tech Scouts, you know, I could hardly get around. I was feeble, but I was telling the people in the masterclass today that we did a lot of really kind of serious shit in the first week on that movie, and by the end of the week, all the guys that had really written us off, me and my first Liz, who's short as well, were really humbled by our performance. They didn't say so, of course. We went out drinking and they came up and they kind of shook our hands, put their heads down. And that's when I kind of realised it's unusual to do what I do, to be female director. And I didn't let that stop me. And I suppose now, I mean, it's more than 10 years later, and I just showed Whale Rider, I just watched Whale Rider again in LA, and I was so shocked by what a prescient film it was. Because I'm telling you, the United States is so far behind New Zealand in terms of these kind of politics, gender politics. It's a very zeitgeisty at the moment, the female director thing. I mean, yeah. Jessica's, I didn't think about it. You know, when I crewed Zookeepers, and there were a lot of women, it didn't even occur to me, because I don't proactively crew women over men. I don't do that, but I just try to get the best person for the job. And it so happened that there were lots of girls on the movie, and so this big thing came out in the Hollywood Reporter. They took a picture of us, and we just wrapped the movie, and so we're all there, and so they said, all the women go there and we'll take a picture of you. And I looked around, there were so many of us. And I was sitting with Jessica up the front, and there were the guys, like all the rest of the crew that were the guys that were there looking sort of shifty, and I said to Jessica, and they wonder why they had such a good time. I think it's unusual for an American crew to have a lot of women around, but it's healthy, it really is. You know, if I could fill my film sets with women and children and animals, it'd be really good. But the fact is, it's not. I think being female, the qualities that I consider to be female, the more feminine qualities, are very good qualities to have for making a movie. You know, being communicative, taking care of people, being sensitive. All of those things, the great male directors have too. I mean, some of the great directors have all sorts of other things going on, but. I take great issue with being known as a female filmmaker. Yeah. Because I don't want my work to be only put up against 4% of the working filmmakers in America. You know, there's nothing that that another director can't do that I can do. It's not. It's a gentlest sort of exercise, and so. I'm in a sort of funny position where I'm often asked to speak about it, but it's a hard thing to talk about because I got a lot of survivor guilt. I don't know why it's me and not somebody else, because it by rights should be. It's a criminal waste of talent. I don't know how those studio executives could sleep at night, quite frankly, to not be considering, because basically when they're going to make a movie, they have a list of directors that they'll consider. And you can be sure, I mean, they're sort of being shamed into putting women on the list now, but most of the list is guys. And the fact that I've been able to make, I mean, North Country was purely off the success of Whale Rider. I was considered a hot, young director. I'm kind of not now. But that was, you know, that was the opportunity I got from the success of Whale Rider. McFarland I got because, I mean, even though that's a sports movie, a Disney sports movie, an inspirational sports drama, so, you know, clearly I'm not the guy to go to for that. But I was sure to my marrow that I was the best person to tell that story. I was so sure, and so when I went into the studio to talk about it, I talked about it from a position of, you know, I didn't say it, but I knew it, that I was the best person to tell this story. And it was because of Whale Rider, really. It was because having the point of view of being able to, of having had the experience of going into a real community and a different culture to my own, and working with real people in real environments and making something that I consider to be worth the time and expense and effort. Because that's the other thing. I don't really get offered anything very much, so don't get the impression that people are coming with lots and lots and lots of projects to me and I get to pick and choose. I don't. I'm fighting like a rat in a corner most of the time for all the work I get. You have to fight for it, and right now, you know, to be sure, I'm fighting with the best in the world. So I really want to be sure that, you know, I can, if I'm going to go after a project, that I can do a really good job, that I've got something to offer. You know, it's a privilege to make a film. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And it's sort of worth talking about in the context of New Zealand filmmaking, where still now we're lucky enough, you're lucky enough to have government funding. That may not last. While you have it, treat that with the respect it deserves. You know, somebody is willing to give you money to tell a story. So if you're about to start your movies or your projects, don't rush in. If you get the opportunity, really make sure as you get close that your script is ready, that you're ready, that you really, 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 really deeply believe in the story that you're telling, and that I talked a bit about this today, but it bears repeating, that you know, that you understand what you're trying to say, but even more that it deserves being said. Who are you saying it to, and why are they going to want to watch it? You know, I think over the course I've really become acutely aware of that in my work. Who is the audience, and why are they going to bother to come out? And going to the movies is expensive. It really is. It costs a lot of money. And then when you factor in babysitting and everything like that, which I do now, it's a lot. So I just encourage you guys to not squander the opportunity of the investment. Use it wisely and use it well, and do brilliant things with that opportunity. Yeah, if you can.
That's a beautiful idea, you know, that we're so lucky to have this government funding, and we need to treat it with respect. When you were saying we need to be making stuff that we need to be thinking about, is it worth that investment, that when people go to the cinema, how does that balance with, I am an artist and I have a voice?
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good question. So I think, kind of in general, broad terms, that art house movies could do with just being, if you're going to make an art house movie, have an eye on the commercial, you know? I mean, Whale Rider was absolutely an art house movie, but all the way along, every moment of that, I was thinking, are the audience getting it? You know, is this scene delivering what this scene needs to do? And is it gonna buy their trust to go to the next scene? I was thinking a bunch of other things too, but that was the thing I was really, really clear about. I think genre movies could do with being a bit more intelligent. Like, so purely commercial movies could be smarter, and smart movies could be more commercial. And that there's this beautiful sweet spot in the middle that I think you guys could all be in. You really can. I will say another thing, and I said it to you last night. I was having I mean, I'm an art house kind of girl. Those are the movies that I like. That's the sort of the direction I lean. Even something like an inspirational sports movie, I managed to make a bit more artistically inclined, at least I think. But I was talking to a woman last week who was talking about, she's looking for a director for a movie. Happens to be an amazing script, and she would like that director to be a woman. All of you female directors here, it is our time, I'm telling you, it starts now. Be ready, because people now know we exist, and they are prepared to hire us. And so she said, look, if I could find a female director that had directed a really solid genre film, like a solid little thriller, like even at Sundance level, she said, I would snap that person up immediately. So it's not just a case of the only path to success is to make something that'll end up in Cannes, for instance. Actually, you know, with your $1 million or whatever money you manage to get from Film Commission, you can make something super smart that's entertaining and moving. You can do it. You really, really, really can. There is nothing stopping you from having a great script. I'll just keep going back to that. Don't start and shoot it unless the script is really great. And hopefully your budget can contain it. You know, that you make something that can be made on the budget, so that you're not sort of painting yourself into a corner that you can't get out of. Yeah. And it is possible. And a good story is a good story. It's a good story. You know, it can look like shit. You know, you can not conform to any of the conventions of filmmaking. You can cross the line. You can do whatever you like with the lighting. It can look like all hell. But if it's a good story, if you care about the characters, if you're really invested and it makes you feel something, it doesn't matter. It's still a good story. That's the bargain that you have with the audience. You need to understand that the responsibility, no, listen to me, I'm all getting all bossy. It's good if we understand the responsibility of storytelling. Yeah, because it's not about us. It's not. It's actually, you know, if your voice and your vision gets attention, marvelous. Good on you. But your real responsibility is to tell a story to an audience. And it's a great thing when you make that connection. It's pretty glorious, actually.
You were saying you should wait until it's ready.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you know? And have you ever gone out with a story before it's ready and learned some lessons from that?
I'm sort of more in a situation where scripts at them, you know, because of this kind of area that I work in, studios are super conscious of not going out for scripts ready, and so am I. I mean, on the last movie, the script was really good. And it wasn't even, we didn't think it was really long, but then when it got broken down, we couldn't afford it. And then we realized that the writer had written it in a funny program, which meant it wasn't formatted correctly. So it was coming out at 115 pages, but really it was 130 pages.
Oh.
Yeah, and suddenly,
Oh, I see.
yeah, and suddenly, so it would take another extra 5 days to shoot, which we didn't have the budget for. So it was my job to cut the film, to cut the script before we started in prep, so that we had a shit show of coming in on time and on budget. And also for me, you know, I don't want to go, I just want to use my time well.
Yeah.
So, and as it was, so I made all these cuts, and then I was still cutting scenes while we were shooting, because we were going to go overall, days were going to be too kind of squeezed. And then it assembled, it was 3.5 hours long. And I didn't read my contract because I was contractually obligated to deliver a film that was 2 hours or under. It was horrible, actually. And so, you know, we cut the film, and the film is, I don't know, 205. The studio's good with that. They were fine. They had to renegotiate all the contracts with all the, because they'd sold a movie that was going to be 2 hours or less. So that meant that you ran the risk of going back to companies who could use that as a way to get out of that contract. And because those contracts were, those deals were done such a long time ago, and by that stage some of the companies had, you know, changed or gone under. It, you know, it's more complicated than you can possibly imagine, and don't think I know really anything about it, but I know this bit. But it, you know, it got really right down to the wire. But from a creative point of view, I lost. Our editor David told me there are 40 scenes that I shot that are not in that movie. Yeah. The movie totally hangs together, by the way. It's fine. We tested it. It scored really well. But I was just so sad. Not because I thought that there was, you know, great genius in any of those 40 scenes, but because they represented such a lot of time and money. And so now, you know, I'm supposed to go on to another project. I'm all over the script right now. I'm just all over it. Really, really, really going through the beats of each character arc, going through the whole story. What do I need? What can I get away with less? Can I make this better so I don't need that? So, you know, there's never any complacency about the process. The process is the same for me as it is for you. I start at the beginning every time. And I can't talk enough about a script being really solid when you go in, because if you know why every scene is there and how it contributes to the story as a whole, then every scene deserves to be there, and you'll know how to shoot it. I say this to all of you more auteur, at the more auteur end of the spectrum. There is nothing wrong with a straight line. There's nothing wrong with going from A to B to C to D to get to E. It's actually quite lovely. And for an audience, if they can follow a clear story that is meaningful, then you can bring all of the skill, the beauty, the atmosphere, the look of it, the camera work. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, and they're all important things. But I do not believe they're more important than the story. It's everything. Yeah. And don't let anybody tell you some shit about things being character-based. That's not a story, that's a bunch of characters. Yeah, I mean, you can have really interesting, engaging characters, but unless they're doing something, and unless a story is being told, then nothing's happening. It's just a bunch of wacky guys, you know. Yeah. So yes, that's what I think.
Yeah. Speaking to that, like protecting your vision and protecting your idea of what the story is.
Yes.
How do you think about this beforehand? How do you defend yourself? Do you arm yourself with that knowledge beforehand, or is it an instinctive thing that you fight in the moment?
Knowing what your voice is, trusting your voice, is that what you're talking about? I mean,
Yeah,
it seems
I
like
guess
you seem to be talking about other people trying to mess with.
Yeah, you were saying
Yeah,
don't let anybody tell you whatever, but like, do you get that a lot? Like,
I think I just have a really clear. I have a point of view.
right.
I'm proud of that as a filmmaker. I've earned that. I've worked hard on that. I know what I do well, and I do it that way, and it seems to work. And you know, kind of what I like in filmmaking, if it isn't kind of really obvious or any, I like stories that are true. I love to be able to go into a community that the story comes from and work with real people. And that's because I'm really not interested. It's why I guess, oh no, I'll just stay on a straight line. Yeah, so for me, it would be super arrogant, for McFarland for instance, to go into a small Latino Central Valley community full of immigrant field workers and presume to know what their life is like. You know, I'm an extremely privileged, middle-class, reasonably educated person from New Zealand who's had tremendous advantages in my life. So what I do, the process that I follow is I go there. It's really simple. I'm so basic. I just go and I just experience what that's like. You know, I look and I listen and I eat and I hang out and I ask questions, and then the work becomes, oh, now I have to convince the studio that we're not going to go shoot this in a tax sheltery state. That would be completely inappropriate, because I have a real commitment to authenticity and specificity. So to convince the studio to shoot in California, which is really expensive, and there, well at that time, no tax breaks, not for us at least, and convince them of the value of shooting in the real place. And they were great. Actually, Disney were great, and they were so thoroughly on board with the vision for it, and that was really great, because me being short on my marrow that I was the right person, I think they agreed. So it was fantastic. Although I remember very clearly watching it for the first time assembled and just thinking, holy fuck. It does not, this is being sorry, this is, I'm going to try not to swear because I forgot that it was.
That's fine.
This does not look like a Disney movie at all. I was so worried that they would kind of have a really violent reaction against it, but they didn't, they were amazing. And so for me, working like that means that I don't have to be so clever. I really don't. I can just look all around me. There's the truth of everything. Yeah. I'll just do it like that. So, you know, real locations, real people, making an environment for them where they are very happy just to be themselves. So you don't come in with all of your big fancy Hollywood vibe, but more just more hanging out, you know, having fun, allowing the process to be enjoyable vibe. And then great things can come, wonderful things. In McFarland, we had to cast 7 Mexican teenage boys that could act and run. And of course, studio wanted them to be quite good looking as well. And so we did sort of massive search all throughout California and Texas and New Mexico, and ended up finding 3 of those kids in McFarland. And that was huge. It was huge for them, and it was huge for their community. And then when the movie was released, just the joy of taking it back, and how proud those people were of it and of their place. Because literally nobody stopped. You would never stop in McFarland. There's one thing in McFarland, it's McDonald's, and that's it. You know, there's all the, you know, the Latino markets and stuff, but it's like McDonald's is held up as like the greatest place in McFarland because it's the only place with air conditioning. So hot. You can't believe how hot it gets in the Central Valley. I mean, these people are working in Celsius 45 degree heat through the summer. Incredible. You can't, I mean, even just location scouting, getting in and out of an air-conditioned bus, because I'm so soft. I've never experienced anything like it. And that sensation of always being thirsty and always needing to go to the toilet at the same time was just really unusual. My life is so hard. Yeah, so I was really I was super inspired all the time by those guys. I just wanted to do such a good job for them. I wanted to do a good job for the studio too, and of course I wanted to do a good job for me and, you know, in my body of work, but I really, really wanted to, I really liked the idea of lighting those guys up, you know, of putting them up on a really big screen and allowing people to see how freaking strong and fantastic they are. And of course, you know, in the United States, there's just terrible, terrible rhetoric around immigration. Obviously you would know, and particularly at the moment. And so I did like the idea very much that I could be additive in that conversation in my way, put something out there that honoured the contribution those kids make to their country. An interesting thing about that when I was writing it was hard. It was really hard to write it because I hadn't been there. I mean, I'm talking about going there and hanging out. When I started, I hadn't been there yet. It was really hard, and so I went on the internet to find out what life is like for migrant workers, teenage workers in America. And there was nothing. There's nothing on the internet. These people, and that's when I realized that these people are invisible. There was nothing. There was some statistical information. You know, there was sort of economic charts and things, some kind of social statistics, but there was nothing anecdotal, there was nothing emotional, and it took me a while to dig down and find those. I found actually self-published, sort of small runs of published books that spoke to, you know, and those kids' writings. Like teachers had published books about these kids writing about their lives, and it was very eye-opening, very humbling, and so, you know, I sort of started from there. Kept going, and it was super fun actually making that movie. Those boys they were just totally great. They were just like puppies, and Kevin Costner was like this old dog, and he was so kind to them. He was like this alpha dog that was kind of so indulgent with them. Then he'd sort of slap them around, tell them to go away. It's really amazing, and if any of you have seen it, I think that quality really comes through in the movie, that he loved them and they adored him, and that's all super real. I didn't have to make that up with my movie tricks. That was just a total joy, actually.
You were saying that you have to fight like around in a corner to work on projects. What drives you to your next project?
Well, I sort of paying the bills.
Right. Fair enough.
No, it's true. I support my family, and I haven't yet been in a situation where I felt confident in my next job. I tend to go right to the brink, and it's quite challenging sometimes. Right now, my family and I have made the decision to relocate to the States, so we now are not bouncing around the world. We make that our base, and And part of that commitment, I have just got representation. I mean, I've always had it, but I've always just had my one person, and she hasn't been with an agency for a long time. So now I have representation, and they send me stuff. But it's even though they're sending me overwhelming amounts of stuff, it's not overwhelming amounts of stuff that I can go, oh great, I'll do that, and it's a done deal. Absolutely not. You know, it's stuff that just happens to be out there without, not even at the stage where they're without a director, but it's out there if all the stars should align. Because that's the other thing that I continue to find really kind of amazing that any movies actually ever get made, particularly independent movies, because, and with a studio, you know, studios like, already the finance is done. When they green light, that's it, they're writing the checks, you're making the movie, it's a done deal. But with independent movies, they have to be financed in a lot more creative ways. And that can mean something like film commission funding, it can be pre-sales, it can be co-productions. And you can end up with a lot of financial entities all contributing to the budget. But all of those people are not going to contribute to the budget just because it's a good idea or a nice script or a promising director or whatever. They need to know who's in it. And then the hard work becomes, you know, how do I convince this gigantic movie star to get paid $12.50 to come and work on my independent movie? You know, it's really, really, really hard. And even at the studio level, having to go out and convince somebody to play Jim White in McFarland was really, really, really hard. I had to just do somersaults to get Kevin to agree to do it. And this is the thing that shits me most about the thing, being a female director or telling female-driven stories. You cannot imagine how hard it is to get a male actor to play a secondary role to an actress in a female-led movie. You cannot imagine. Imagine all the male actors, all of them. I have been turned down by all of them. It's really demoralizing. I hate it. Even, this time last year when I was just right about to shoot Zookeeper's wife, Jessica Chastain, one of the best actresses in the world. Everybody loves and respects her. She's incredible. Do you think anybody would man up to play either one of the two incredible roles opposite that incredible woman? Astonishing. So this is a constant battle I have. The two guys that did step up, so good. And one of them in particular is kind of, nobody knows who he is. I didn't know who he was. But then I saw a movie called Broken Circle Breakdown. You guys seen that? Yeah, it won Best Foreign Film 2 years ago at the Oscars, and it's a wonderful Belgian or Flemish film. And this guy, Johan Heltenberg, is the lead in it. He also wrote it. He didn't actually write the screenplay, but he wrote the play on which the screenplay was based, and he had played the role many times. And so he's in our movie, and he's just amazing. So all of these, fancy actor guys turning us down created space for somebody new to do something incredible, which is kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing too. Yeah. So I don't know even where we started with that.
No,
I'm so
I can't
sorry.
remember where we. But I did want to ask about. This isn't just for female directors, but I'm just going to quote something that Jane Campion said about how she feels that maybe women are too sensitive to succeed as directors. Women must put on their coats of armour and get going. Tell me about this performance that you mentioned before, like a performance of a director who knows what they're doing. Yeah, really good, really good thing to talk about. I got a really good piece of advice when I was
doing North Country, and I had to go in to discuss cast with the head of the studio. And I was so fresh, man. I didn't know what I was doing. And I talked to the Warner Brothers casting woman, and she was really nice. I liked her. She's really cool and really kind. And she said, look, I've got one piece of advice for you. She said, when you go in to see these guys, show no fear. She said, the second they smell fear, they're out of there. And it's true, you know, it is true. With those guys, if you're feeling freaked out, do not let them see it. Don't. There are people that you can let see when you're feeling freaked out, and you should have those people in your close circle. I just worked with an incredible production designer, Susie Davies, young, kind of scrappy British girl, genius, and she had to create on a budget of $12.50 an entire Belle Epoque zoo, 1939, a set that was strong enough to house wild animals, because I wasn't going to make any of my creatures in the CGI world, that they were going to be real animals. And so she sort of pre-scouted, and she found a rundown park in Prague, really neglected, and she said, I think we could build it here. And I totally got it. You know, when she talked me through it, I totally got it. You could see the producers and the money people just go, oh, no. It was a very good call. You know, it was a beautiful set. It was huge, and we did amazing things with it. We had to bomb it, you see. You know, we had to bomb it, and the animals all, you know, the cages exploding, the animals all dying and running through the city. I'm going to get back to that, animals running through the city. But,
oh God.
But the producer said to Susie, you know, kind of a week out from when the set had to be finished, he said, how are you feeling? Are you worried? And she said, fuck yes, I'm completely worried. I'm totally freaked out. And he said, good. Because he said he would have been really worried if she was all, nah, it's going to be fine. So we knew that she was worried and stressed. We all came in around her. It got done. So just pick your moments, right, and the people that you choose to reveal your fear to, not the financiers of the studio. Okay. Yeah. And the animals running through the city. This is really kind of great, because the script, you know, is the bomb hits the zoo, and there's this kind of apocalyptic carnage where all the animals are, you know, wounded, and they're running, and the Polish army's coming in, and an elephant gets shot, and animals just kind of escape the zoo and run through the city. And everybody who I would be, you know, talking to and would say, how are you going to do that? And because I'm a total bozo, I really, really am, I just said, well, I'm going to put the animals in the city. And honestly, it was that simple. I'm going to put the two zebra, a kangaroo in the road. Not together, because they would eat each other. But really, the logistical exercise simply became, how do you contain them? We had to block off, we had to make this secure. It also became, how do you operate the cameras? Because you can't put the cameras in with the lions. So we made it secure. We had a crane over the barricade that we were operating from this side. We had a camera in a little kind of remote housing that could follow them, because we don't know what they're going to do. I asked the lion guy, Mr. Baruchek, who was a ringmaster, who knew two words in English, I'd say, "Dobry Dan, Mr. Brushek," every morning, and he'd say, "No problem." It was really good. And so I said to Mr. Brushek, "What are the animals going to do?" He said, "Probably they'll just go to sleep." And I was pretty sure, this is the thing about working in the Czech Republic. Unfortunately, Europe still has the zoo tradition that has animals in circuses, which we don't kind of have in other parts of the world. We've sort of evolved beyond that. So Mr. Brushek had a lot of animals, and they didn't get out much. So I was pretty convinced that I was going to give these animals like the rockinest day of their life. And it's wonderful, this footage of these young lions just running and exploring, and it's just so amazing, and it's images that you haven't seen before, and I love that about filmmaking, that I can get to do cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I had just a huge amount of trust in animal nature, that an animal was going to behave exactly as an animal should behave, as opposed to a kind of life of pi environment where you can actually make, in the digital world, very, very realistic animals. But if you make a tiger in a computer, it's only ever going to behave as a human being thinks a tiger's going to behave. And the joy of watching a tiger actually do its tiger thing was so great and so amazing for me, and I think the actors too, because actors strive to be that kind of pure and just there. And so yeah, it was wonderful. It was just amazing experience working with animals. Supersonic.
We have gone way over time, but it's time to open the floor to questions.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Niki. I'm Leah.
Hi.
We've come up from Christchurch today to see you.
Oh, really? Thanks.
So, I've written, directed, self-funded a feature film.
Oh, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it took us 3 years, and we've now spent the last year trying to get it seen by anyone of note.
Right.
The problem is I'm completely left field because I wasn't already in the industry. I've just been working away ourselves really until we were good enough and had the right gear and things, which we've done now. Problem is I can't seem to get anyone to see it. Really, ideally we'd want to shop around LA. We've had really good test screening.
Right.
So it's showing a lot of promise.
Okay. So what stage is it at? It's
Completely finished.
It's completely finished. And was it funded through the? No, self-funded. Okay. And when you say test screening, what was it?
Well, it wasn't an official test screening.
Okay.
We applied at theatre.
Yeah.
We had 100 people. Most of them we didn't know. Some we did.
Well done.
And then we just took notes from those people. We had smaller ones before that when we changed the gear.
Yeah.
When she says it's finished, it's I just did it on a computer.
Yeah. Cool.
The best I could. So
Yeah.
we had it in a post house. We've got 2 reps, American reps, and they believe it might have a chance at the big screen in America, but we don't know how to.
But they're not agents.
Right.
So
Have you submitted it to festivals?
Some,
Yes,
yeah,
some.
the big ones.
unfortunately, we didn't get in.
Okay. And what are you talking about? Toronto or Sundance, and are you talking about those festivals?
Yeah.
Okay. There are a whole lot of other festivals.
Yeah, and it seems to be really hard to find out which ones are worth our nearly bankrupting ourselves to go to.
Yeah.
And which ones look better than they are.
Yeah, right. So there are festivals like Karlovy Vary, which is actually in the Czech Republic. It's a very admired festival actually, and the trades will cover it. You'll have Variety there and the Hollywood Reporter, and people keep an eye on it. That tier of festival is really good. I mean, I think it sounds to me like your movie is probably not in the Cannes, Sundance, Telluride. Have you submitted it to the New Zealand Film Festival? That's it's admired.
I just wanted to try. It's sort of a big target is Blumhouse Productions.
I don't know who that is.
Blumhouse, he made
Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activities and
Okay.
the drumming one, that won the Oscar. Yeah.
Whiplash. That's a great
They sort
film.
of specialise in taking budget films and trying to get them wide release and often.
Right. So, okay, for all of you guys, basically the best way to get attention, the litmus test is to go the festival route. It really is. Auckland, then Wellington, Melbourne is highly regarded. You could try London, Edinburgh, New York. What are the other ones? Actually, kind of a bit out of the zone. What's that? Berlin. Yeah, go for Berlin. I mean, it's a big one. But Germans love New Zealand movies. They love us. I don't know why. But they do. I think they really connect to the elemental nature of this country. They love Māori content. Love it. What is your film? Oh, yeah. Hi.
Go on the Screen Australia site. They have the list. They've got a recommended list of festivals and closing dates, and they're the ones that they actually
Thank you.
are prepared for you to, they would support or at least.
Thanks,
endorse.
Patricia. Yeah, thank
so
you.
That's a very comprehensive and useful.
Yeah.
I did hear there was a board that Jane campaigns on, and they were sort of looking for new talent and things.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong girl. I'm not her. Yeah. I wish I was.
You're not Jane Campion.
I'm sorry.
Anyone like that, or even if you've got an hour and 40 minutes sometime, I can hook you up with a link.
Okay. What's it about?
It's a psychological thriller.
Okay.
It's based on some actually very dark experiences that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of that, it's a very original story. We actually, if we can grab your email or something afterwards, I can send you
Trailer and
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Maybe you could send it through Tui.
Actually, what I think you should do, there are a number of filmmakers in the room who have made features off their own bat. I would suggest you talk to them. Can you guys put up your hands? Because I know there's guys here. Yeah, all of these people have made their own features like that. And we had words of advice, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? I would like to know about the casting aspect of your involvement. And two, have you ever been in a situation whereby you are not getting the performance that you had anticipated? And how did you work that magic spell?
Okay, casting is 90% of it. Yeah, cast the right person. I mean, look at Keisha. I don't think I've really, because I really careful about casting. I really am careful, and my instinct's pretty good. I don't think I have ever really screwed it up.
I'll give you an example of what I was doing.
Yeah, okay, what's going on?
Just using my mad mind. Let's say the zookeeper's wife, where you had the two guys who didn't really, because she was the main role, you had trouble in the end, Johan and
Daniel.
And their on-set chemistry when you're casting, you're very careful to put them together prior to filming it. Did you exercise that the chemistry would be right on set?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to be aware of. I talked a bit about this today, that they're all different. Actors are all different. The way people are all different, and they're all just. I love them. I love actors. They're really special, and they're capable of tremendous. It's like alchemy. I'm amazed by what they can do. Jessica Chastain, for me, total masterclass. Every day I worked with her. There was nothing that she couldn't do or wasn't prepared for, or she's quite strong. She's very strong, and she would always want to be very clear about what was going on. And I think, you know, that's our job as directors. We have to really, really, really know what the scene's about and be very clear about what we want. An actor deserves that from you. And then you have to sort of manage the space between them. And that's all about being sensitive to what's going on, and sometimes an actor's going to need your help more than another time, or more. And one actor will need tremendous, you know, all sorts of things from you, where another will just need space. You have to learn to know what that is, and sort of, in a way, really you only get that with experience, but instinct is really important. I find super important. Sensitivity, just watching, listening, yeah. So you can anticipate a disaster, or you can fix, you know, as something that has kind of roadblocked a scene. Anybody else?
So, Niki, this is a two-part question.
Okay.
Would you regard yourself as a director for hire?
Yes, absolutely, I would.
Because
What's the second question?
The problem that we have with, when we get a group of with female directors.
Yes.
Where I would say it'd be fair enough to think the majority seem to think that it has to be their own project. And so there's no viable career. We can't bring them through when you're developing your own project. There are very few people in the world who have been auteurs, who have had
no,
careers.
absolutely, you're right.
So where is the satisfaction, if you could explain where the satisfaction is in developing other people's projects and being a director?
Yeah, I mean, just the job of directing is a super cool job. It's really cool. And for me, it sort of doesn't matter what it is, as long as I find it interesting and worth, you know, an audience's time and everything, television or whatever. I mean, a story is a story is a story. I would say to your directors that they should get as much practice as they can. You know, television is made here. You know, I presume there are directing jobs in television that they could go for. Make their own stuff. There's of course not there's not a lot of directing jobs. That's the thing. It's not sort of, I consider myself a director for hire, ergo therefore there will be a bunch of jobs I can do. It's still very hard. But I think to go maybe a little deeper into what you might be dealing with through WIFT is, I think, if you boil down directing to, you know, what directing actually is, I think directing is knowing what you want and being able to ask for it, knowing how to ask for it. And I think that's way more easy for men than it is for women. I think women still find that really hard. And so, you know, I believe I have a big responsibility with my children, who are both female, to teach them that it's okay to have desires, to have ambitions, to want to do stuff, and to expect that they can. So when you apply it to directing, it starts to get sort of really kind of at some kind of cellular level quite a scary thing to be on a set and saying, you know, this is what I want and I'm asking you to give it to me, you know. It's challenging.
So is it fear holding them back?
I think it might be, and I think that you know, there's a lot of other things holding us back too. Let's face it. That, you know, there's a whole system that's not being very helpful. But I mean, I just say to all of you, do what it takes to tell your stories. You know, you've got to.
Not just your story.
Well, yeah, well, just stories. Yeah. If you want to be a filmmaker, you know, you've got to get scrappy. It's not gonna, just because you want it doesn't mean it's sort of naturally going to happen. You have to actually make it happen. And then when you make it happen, make it good. Okay? It's got to be good, because you're not going to get to do the next thing if the thing that you're doing now isn't really good. Yeah, and I don't, you know, when I say good, I just mean tell a story well, engage an audience, you know, make it about them, not about you.
I think that's a wonderful sentiment to end on.
Okay.
Although you did say one thing last night to me. You said New Zealand is special, and we can't really see it from where we are now. Why is New Zealand special?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I can see with New Zealand films, the ones that are successful and why they are successful. I don't think kind of we understand when we come here how special of a place it is and what a unique point of view we have and what amazing voices you guys have. It's so different from the rest of the world. It's so different, and people overseas can't believe it, how beautiful it is. I think New Zealand nature, you know, our kind of straight upness, it's really refreshing, and I really hope that these authentic New Zealand voices can continue to be heard, that these stories can continue to be told. And I'm you know, just think about the successful movies, New Zealand movies that are out there, and I mean, I don't know, Once Were Warriors, The Piano, Dark Horse, Boy, Whale Rider, there's more, right? There's a bunch of them. Vigil, The Navigator. All of those stories were unique. They were authentic voices. They were specific stories and points of view that nobody else in the world is telling. And New Zealand has kind of great humour. And I think we can do here the light touch for the deep subject, which is, you know, I encourage you all not to go down the rabbit hole of being really dark. Really bring lightness. Even if you're telling a tough story, find where the humour is, find where the joy is, because that's humanity, and that makes a more engaging and interesting movie, easier movie to watch. And don't let anybody kind of sell you the idea that you can only make genre films to be successful. I applaud any of you that makes a good genre film. You know, that's super cool. But I think in terms of, I think anybody from anywhere can make a good genre film. But I will always believe that New Zealand is the best and most special place in the world, and that you guys have something here that you can tap into that is very strong. It's really amazing, and people aren't very good, New Zealanders aren't very good at hearing they're amazing, but you just are. So just go out and be amazing and do amazing work, and you know, it's going to be good.
Cheers to that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niki. It's been
such a pleasure.
Niki here since Sunday, and she's leaving on Friday.
Yeah.
actually talking to a bunch of filmmakers who are benefiting from the knowledge. So, and thank you, Roseanne, for doing this tonight. It's really good. So, we hopefully will be seeing some more films from Niki in the not too distant future. And I mean, one of the things I spoke about it in the car when I was coming here with Niki, but one of the points that we discussed this afternoon, which I think is something that it's really struck me, because I'm used to listening to a lot of people talk about films, but I think Niki's point about making it for the audience, not you, is something that is really relevant, I think, to New Zealand filmmakers, because it is in the end about somebody paying the $15 and getting that experience and enjoying it and relishing it, and at the same time getting that point of view that, as Niki has said, New Zealanders can have a unique point of view that can cut through. And it's about that combination of two things. And to hear it from a New Zealander who is succeeding on the international stage as a career director, I think is a really good thing for all of us to take on board. So thank you. And a big hand to Niki again.
Thank you.